All right, let's see if this works. Let's see if this works. Let's hope that we can maybe get some streaming going. I have no idea what was going wrong. I don't know what's going wrong. I hope you can hear me. Yay, cool. I don't know what the hell just happened. Gotta love technology. Yeah. Literally changed 0%. Did nothing. Just started a new stream. Have no idea why that didn't work. So sorry for the delay. So sorry for the confusion. I have no idea what was going on at all. Very strange. I hope everybody else can find us. There was 14 people in the room before, so I hope they can find us. Ugh, sorry, everybody. Sorry. We'll wait a few minutes more to get started. Super lame. I don't know what the heck was going on there. Literally changed no settings. Just started a new stream, and now it seems to be working for no good reason at all. God love technology, especially when it's totally not on your side and refuses to make any kind of sense at all. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors there's a new stream. I'm going to wait just a couple more minutes to get started. Sorry, guys. Super weird. I don't know what that was. Very strange. I hope everybody's having a lovely day. Otherwise, introduce yourselves in chat if you feel like doing that. If you want to just lurk, that's cool. But we know you're here. I know you're here. I can see you. So light some incense. Put on some chapstick, right? If you're not already moisturized enough, get to a place where you feel like you are. Because we're getting into some hot and spicy business today, people. Okay? Let me tell you this right now. So if you need to deal with some chappiness, if you have some moisturizing, some hydration that you need to take care of, now is the time before we actually get into the business. Now is the time. I'm also going to light some incense while we wait for a couple more people to show up. Burning some more red sandalwood. Hello, beautiful humans. Ooh, Eva, great question. What decks are people working with today? What are you guys using today? Pagan Cats Tarot. Pagan Cats. From you, Eva. Really odd. Never would have guessed. Definitely a stretch. Lark, you're working with the Spanish Tarot? What is that? Don't touch the mic. Hi, Bill. Prisma Visions, Smith Waite, cool. Lark, old woodcut style. Okay, cool. Awesome. Right on. Cool. I wonder if it's like, is it one of the Marseille decks, like a Visconti Sforza deck, or is it like a more modern deck, but just Espanol? Osho Zen, excellent. Druid Craft Tarot, absolutely. Cool. Very cool. All right, there's 12 people here. Oh, 11. Bye. Whatever. There was 14 in the last. Sorry, guys. I hope those last 3 people can find their way over. Oh. I am gonna do this. Oh wait, I can't do that. I'm not gonna do that. Okay, cool. I'll get back to it. Similar to a Rider-Waite. Huh. Okay, cool. It's probably a more modern deck. That's cool. That's awesome. All right. We've dicked around long enough. Technology and other bullshit aside, it's time to begin. Let us begin talking about the Emperor card. The Emperor card is can be an asshole. Let's be honest about it. The Emperor can be a bit of a handful to deal with. Let's see. Okay. So everybody's got their decks out, candle lit, stick of incense. You guys are ready to go. All right, good. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. Okay. So when we are sitting down to get to know a card, when I am sitting down to get to know a card and like spend some time with it and really try to get in and get some understanding about what this card is trying to teach me, where I tend to start is with the predominant colors and the predominant shapes that are on a card. This is an approach that I'll use definitely more so with decks that have a lot of geometric design or that have a lot of color intensity. This approach is sometimes not necessarily as potent or efficient of a way to get into knowing a card. If you're dealing with a card that's all monochromatic, that doesn't have a lot of design, doesn't have a lot of symbolism, it can be a little bit more abstract, but the card is still going to mean what it means. So it might mean that you don't necessarily have a boatload of visual clues to pick up on in the card. You may have to do some more research on your own, out of books, talking to other people and looking at what how other people have defined the card. But I find that if you're dealing with a deck that has that's got a lot of stuff on the individual cards, you have a lot to go on right there in front of you based on what you already know about life and what you already know, like what your personal correlations already are. So I definitely, I guess, encourage kind of an intuitive approach initially, anyways, when you are getting to know a deck and getting to know the individual cards. God knows I love research and I love knowing the historical blah, blah, blah behind stuff and what is every last opinion on this and what's every last school of theory on this and that. I love knowing that stuff too. But I absolutely blend it or temper it with my own subjective like personal experiences and my own subjective interpretation of that color or that shape or whatever. And between those two things is where I find my most accurate or my deepest, I guess, interpretation of the meaning of a card. It's kind of at the crossroads of my subjective experience, which is what formulates my intuition, and what are the bodies of knowledge that are out there that are considered to be like the traditional meanings of the card or the traditional sources of meaning for that card. Okay, so when we're looking at the Emperor card, what have we got? Well, in our color spectrum, we have on the Pamela Coleman Smith deck, or the Rider-Waite deck, or the Smith-Waite deck, or any of the many, many variations of this particular deck, Radiant Waite, all of those, Universal Waite, Osho Zen Waite, Jada Felicia Rashad Waite. We have a ton of red, orange, and yellow. Those are by far, for me, the most predominant colors that I see in this particular deck. And this is kind of, we could think of this as like the grandma of a lot of modern tarot. This isn't going to be true for every deck, but it is true for this one. In the Hermetic Tarot, which is completely done in black and white, we see a lot of alternating black and white colors. We see a lot of circles. We see this really big, like pointy like a pyramid or an umbrella or something like that that's over here in the corner, but it's got this like pointy thrusting kind of a vibe to it. So we're already getting information from that stuff. For pagans and witches, of course, dealing with the colors of red and orange and yellow, that immediately brings us into the south side of our altar. We're dealing with fire. We're dealing with God energy, thrust energy, yang energy, anything that's very extroverted, that's very willful or oriented in the will and willpower. It's force, it's dominance. It's all of that kind of stuff is what we're already getting from that collection of colors, like the combination of reds and oranges and yellows, and especially red. And then again, for pagans and witches and other folks that use color magic, orange is sort of connected to just raw power and raw will and raw energy. And then yellow is oftentimes relegated to the eastern portion of the altar, or things that associate with air and the mind and thinking, the intellect, like stuff that's going on up here, or my technical term for that is brainification. So anything that requires a lot of brainification on our part, or that is evoking a lot of thinking and a lot of intellectual activity on our part, it's going to be all of our yellow stuff. And then we see a couple of other colors on the card as well. But we definitely see that a real intense presence here from red, orange, and yellow. Other colors that we see on this card, though, there's a lot of gray, right? This whole stony seat is gray. If we wanted to be real particular about things, we could say that the scepter and the ball that the emperor are holding, as well as the crown that they're wearing, are gold, which is, in a sense, different from yellow. Their shawl, we could certainly translate that as just dark red, but we can also look at this shawl as maroon. And in other decks, like the Builders of the Aditum deck, which if you work with me, you know I'm very influenced by the symbolism on that. This area up here is all purple. It's a very vibrant purple. And I'll show you a copy of that card in just a second, colored in. Some other colors that we have here, really, I would say the only other color that kind of stands out for me out of everything else is the color of their armor that they're wearing. And if you didn't know, that's armor that they're wearing. They have a suit of armor on underneath all of this. And it's steel blue. We could say that maybe is kind of silvery, but it definitely has this bluish hue about it. And that's, really made pretty obvious in the way it's painted and illustrated. So, those are definitely the colors that stand out to me first and foremost. And so that really kind of orients me already into, well, we're looking at all of that red. So I know there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of drive, there's a lot of intensity with this character. We've got orange. So we have a person that's really tapped into their willpower or their ability to like drive forth and make a thing happen. We've got a lot of yellow. It's in the background, but there is still a significant portion of yellow here. So we know that there's something going on with this person having a lot of intellectual activity or a lot of brainification. We have this maroon color, or potentially purples on some cards here. And that is going to connect us to royalty. That's going to connect us to things that are like a little bit closer to the gods than the average bear, the average person. So we've got something that sort of implies that this person is connected to deeper sources of power, connected to more lofty sources of power. They have gold on them and kind of very balanced, right? Some on one side, some on the other, and then some right in the middle. And we know that gold connects to sun and solar energy. So there's also another sort of gentle innuendo there of like there might be some deity stuff here, solar energy, god energy, thrust energy, that thing. And then we have this steely armor that they're wearing. And blue for me in the tarot really relates to our emotional realms, and it relates to our unconscious realms and the information that we get from the unconscious. And this person is actually wearing that information as armor. So that's kind of an interesting connection there. And then they have this solid gray, very square. It almost looks, if you wanted to, you could say that it's two cubes basically stacked on top of each other. There's a square here as the seat portion, and then this portion up here would be a square as well. And so squares for me in tarot and in magical symbolism very much mean the earth plane, the physical world, out here, like the mineral world, the material plane, however you want to say that for yourself. That's very much what those shapes imply for me. And we'll get to why that's really potent here in this card. And then gray. And gray is a really important color for me as well in the tarot. It actually shows up quite a lot. And it's thought of as just sort of being this color that's in the background or a color that's used for architecture or whatever. But for me, gray is the blending of opposites. It's the blending of whatever we represent on the black side and whatever we want to represent as the white side, or the light and the dark, or easy hard, or old and new, or whatever your binary paradigm stuff is. It's talking about a blending of those two things, but it also represents kind of like the known collected sources of wisdom, and those bodies of knowledge that we kind of come to rely on and come to stand on as like guiding sources of information. And so, okay, so we'll get to that. All right. So that's just kind of a general overview of the types of colors that I'm seeing in this and some of the shapes that I'm seeing in this. Now, there is another really important shape that shows up in some Emperor cards. And I guess here is where I'll pull out my copy of the Builders of the Adetum deck. This is from a book called The Tarot by Paul Foster Case. If you really want to dive deep on tarot symbolism, this is it. Get this book, go for it. It's a lot. You're not going to get it the first time. Read it over and over and over again. This is the way that the Builders of the Adetum picture the Emperor card and how they suggest it to be painted. And here's that purple that I was referring to. And then you can really see the cube seat that the Emperor is sitting on. There's another, like I was saying, that sort of square idea of a square or a cube representing the material world. But we can also see another shape in this, the body of the Emperor. And that shape is made from the point of their head down to their elbows. So we see an equilateral triangle here. And then underneath that, made with their legs, is this cross shape here. And so that's a cross with a triangle on top of it. And that is the alchemical symbol for sulfur. And we will get into why that's something that these guys chose to include in their depiction of this card in a little bit. But that's another shape that you might look for or see in cards. I mean, you can tell that the way that they've drawn it is a little bit different from everybody else. Here's another really prominent shape right here in the very center, is this T shape here. Okay. So, brainification, that's absolutely correct. I should say, and I'll have to remind myself to say this over and over again, please feel free to type in questions in the chat. I may stop and answer the question at the time, or I may wait until later, or we might wait until the very end. We'll just see how it all works out. Slightly different setup than what we're used to, so we're still kind of like feeling it out and seeing what happens. Okay. I guess it's also worth noting that in the way that the Boda folk depict the Emperor, if you notice in the background of the Smith-Waite deck, the mountains are all bright yellow. They're all a really hot, lemony, bright yellow. And in the Bota deck, they are dark red. They are a very dense, heavy red. Okay. So those are the main colors and shapes that I think are the most predominant and the most that have really the most to say in this card. All right, so let's get into who is the Emperor and what is all of this stuff. All right, the Emperor is this character that comes along fairly early in the major arcana. I'm going to start with the Magician because, of course, the Fool is 0, and the Fool can be at the beginning or the end or at any other place in the major arcana that they want to be. So we can think of the Magician as being a start to the major arcana. We have the Magician and the High Priestess. And in some magical practices, they are thought of as the spiritual mother and father, or the spiritual parents or progenitors of the soul or the individual. And then the next two cards that we have are the Empress and the Emperor, and they are thought of as the physical genesis, the physical parents, the physical beginnings of the person that's about to go and have this adventure. So we know just from that description right there that we're going to have daddy issues with this guy. Right? Maybe just a little bit of that. Okay. But the Emperor is connected to the sign of Aries. And in tropical astrology, there are I guess I should say this as well. If you haven't been in a class with me before, I do tend to go on tangents every now and then, which is why questions in the chat are great, because sometimes you may have to wrangle me back to what it was that we were talking about. But there are other systems of organizing and numbering the major arcana. We are just going to talk about one today that is probably the most popular way. It's not the rightest way, it's just the most popular way. There are other ways. As well, there are other astrological correlations with the major arcana. What I'm talking about is a system that's very popular. And so what I would recommend is, if all of this stuff is relatively new to you, pick a system and just learn it start to finish and get comfortable with it. And then if you're still curious, find another system and learn that. It's not about one being more right over the other objectively, but one of them may be more right than the other for you individually. Okay. So some systems do correlate the Emperor card to different astrological signs. We're going to work with a system that correlates the Emperor to the sign of Aries. And in tropical astrology, which is the astrological system most people practice in the West, lots of people, maybe not most, but lots, we connect the sign of Aries to the spring equinox. That it starts, the sign of Aries, the month that is going to be the sign of Aries, starts at spring equinox, which is March 21st. Astronomically, that's not correct, but we don't have time in this class to talk about it, so look it up. But for all intents and purposes, in this class, we are going to say that Aries starts March 21st, and the card, the Emperor, is related to Aries. So we could say that we are kind of in the season of the Emperor right now. We're in the time of year that is resonant with this character and the energy and the wisdom that it is trying to bring forth for us. And this character relates to the sign of Aries and the first house. That is me, myself, my sense of self, my ego, and how I imagine myself in the world to be. So first and foremost, we know that this is a character that definitely is concerned with themselves and how they're being seen in the world, and what they're being known for in the world, what their reputation is, what are people saying about them, all of that kind of stuff. But along with that, what we can say about Aries and the Emperor is that they are innovators, they are pioneers, they want to be first, they want to go where no one has gone before, they want to be vanguards. Words like architect and author also sit very comfortably for me with this card and with that sign, because they see things where Nothing exists. They see a trail into a wilderness where no one has ever walked before. They see a building existing in a form that no one has ever tried to build before. Or, like an author, they see a world that exists and characters that could exist in it, that literally doesn't exist until they put their pen to paper. And this character is... it really represents a lot of the thing in us that is like brave and courageous and is willful and is like willing to dare to be real and willing to dare to dream and dare to make a thing be real and true here in the physical plane. I guess something that I could say about that is it's kind of that thing in you that says, I really want this and I'm going to insist that it happens in the world. And there might be things in us or in the world that says, well, who are you to say that this thing should exist or that this thing should be done or this thing should be said? And the emperor in us is the answers back is like, me, bitch, I'm the one. I'm the one that insists. I decided that this is going to be, so it is going to be. It's very willful. It's very brash and brave and courageous, but has some arrogance to it, has some ego to it, definitely. And that is important because when we are practicing magic, when we are living our lives, right? We're faced with challenges. We're faced with things that are frightening, and we are faced with the unknown. We certainly are like really, really faced with it right now. And it's this archetype, it's these types of archetypes that we can evoke or invoke through prayer, through ritual, through ecstatic movement, through meditation, through journaling, through collaging and other forms of art, like through all of these different means, we can work with and commune with these archetypes and ask them for help, ask them for guidance, like show us how we are going to do it. Help me get the skills, help me get the knowledge, and then let me go and do this thing in the world. And we are genuinely facing a really critically important era in the human timeline right now. It didn't start last week. It didn't start last year, right? We are in a multi-decade chunk of time that is pivotal for the species and for the health of the planet. We often say to each other, like, oh, the planet will do fine without us. It'll live, da 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 da. But at what cost, right? Like, what is going to be destroyed in us destroying ourselves or behaving the way that we are as a species? And so we're in this very critical time period of humanity right now, of the species. And it's pivotal. It is critical. It is needed. It is required, we might even say, that some humans start to step forward and say, I have the right to invent a new way of doing things. I have the right to insist that this could be done a different way, a better way. Okay. So something that I think is really important about the imagery on a lot of Emperor cards. We'll see in this one, do you see how the Emperor's head is over the top of the mountains? The pinnacle, the peaks of the mountains are here, and the Emperor's head is up here. And also we can see that that's true in the Boda deck. The Emperor's eye is maybe we could say equal to this very highest peak, but all of the rest of the mountains are below the Emperor's eye. This is that thing in us that has that far off vision, that sees that pinnacle in the distance, that sees that high point in the distance and says, we could do that. We could totally do that. Where are we now? This isn't working. We need to change stuff up. We have to go forward. We have to evolve. We have to progress. And I want to go in this direction that we've never gone before. We've never tried this. Why don't we try this thing over here? And when we're in this place, a lot of folks can kind of look at this and be like, you're a little crazy, or wow, you're being really dogmatic about this, and all of that kind of stuff. But there is a power to the insistence of the emperor. There is a potency to their vision, because they are really sort of acting on behalf of deity, source, our higher self, whatever. And so they do have, we might say, a righteousness about them, although that is a tricky word to work with, and we'll get into that in just a second. But the emperor has this sense of like, not only just, I want to go over there because I never have before, but also I'm supposed to go over there because no one has ever tried to, and I'm going to be the one that tries. There is a solo attitude about the emperor. There's a, I'm going to do this myself kind of thing with the emperor. There is a, I have to do this alone. And part of that is, there is a part of us that, like, when we go off to explore or invent or, traipse into some brand new territory, we do want to be the only one. We want to be the first, right? Like, it feels good. That's just honest. But people will come behind you. And that's another important part of the emperor, is oftentimes they are blazing a trail that then other people are going to follow. And that's a pretty easy thing to imply, because we know that this person is a ruler. We know that there's some type of a leader, or there's some type of a, I'm fancy and I know maybe a little bit more stuff and I'm slightly more in charge than other people are, air about this character. So there is something about the fact that they're choosing this, and they're saying, I'm going to go into the unknown. I might be facing some danger. I might be facing some hardship, but I'm being commanded to go and do this. I am supposed to go and do this. This is my calling to go and do this. Okay. So that's a lot of, kind of in a nutshell, the really rad stuff that we have to work with the emperor. And there's more to it, and we'll circle back around. But I want to now talk about some of the pitfalls of working with this character, because, hi, it's Aries. And, if you know an Aries, they can be a little bossy. Please don't punch your screen when I'm saying that. Thank you. They can be a little rigid, a little dogmatic about things. Calm down. Please don't sue me. Relax. This is just for entertainment purposes only. But there's a reason why. Okay. So we have this character, right? And they have been given this sacred vision, this sacred calling, this holy quest that they are being sort of told or commanded, right? You have to go on this from on high. Like, oh, so they put their helmet on and they buckle down and they put their armor on and they do the thing and they head out into the unknown. Okay, cool. They didn't die. Maybe they fight a tiger. Maybe they become friends with the tiger. Who knows what happens, right? They're alone. We'll hear the stories when they come back, but we have no idea what's going on out there for them. Okay. Camera shot changes to, boom, the emperor. And here we are out here on our own, going down the only road I've ever known. Okay. And there is an element of pride. There is an element of ego to this person. And who wouldn't be proud, right? We've blazed a trail into the unknown. Everybody else was too scared or not equipped well enough, or who knows what the problem was, but nobody's ever tried to do this before. Nobody's ever succeeded at doing this before. And here I am. I'm doing it. It's awesome. Great. Cool. Okay. Well, super for you. That's fantastic. We're all super proud, or we will be when we hear about it. But in the meantime, right, we know that it's not all sunshine and roses. It's not all perfect, buttery days of joy and candy forever. There are hardships. There are setbacks. There are disappointments. And when the Emperor character meets those things, sometimes the way that they will respond to those setbacks is to clam up, to shut down, to isolate, and to alienate. And again, given our current time period, I think it's really important that we stop and sort of address where it is that the Emperor can kind of like get off the rails a little bit. Okay, so we know that the card, the Emperor, is related to the astrological sign Aries. Well, the ruling planet of Aries is Mars. And the tarot card connected to the planet Mars is the Tower. Everybody's favorite. I know, super exciting. The Tower. Probably thought you were just going to have a nice afternoon, tune into some weird ladies tarot thing, and now we're here. Well, welcome to 2020. This is how things roll. Okay. Yeah, sigh. Exactly. Like, I told you to go get a drink before we started. It's on you if you didn't. Okay. The Tower. All right. First off, note the crown. Okay. When we are experiencing the Tower, when we are experiencing this card that is related to the planet Mars, oftentimes what we are experiencing is a situation where we have become very alienated and we've become very isolated. We've become very protective over what it is that we have been able to carve out in this harsh existence called life. In the Tower, we have backed ourselves out onto this tiny little pinnacle of land, and we've built straight up from it, and there's nowhere to go. If we look at this drawing, there's nowhere to go at all for this tower. When we are experiencing the Tower, we are in a place where, and this is very important, we have done the best that we could with what we had. Boom. Also, it was not enough. And we may feel a lot of shame, a lot of embarrassment, a lot of contrition around not being able to admit to ourselves, my creation that I built myself isn't enough. It's not going to get me to where I need to be. It's not going to keep me safe. We went out, we did something, we were brave, we pushed into the unknown, we stretched ourselves, we tried it, right? And now here we are, and we've done the very best that we could with what we had. We've cobbled together a shelter. We've kept ourselves alive on potatoes, and I'm making it work. God damn it, And everybody else that's off in the distance is like, why won't they just come back and like hang out at the tavern? What is the deal? Like, we'll come back to the group, So, a pitfall or a hard area of working with the Emperor, or we could say that when we're in our Aries energies or we're in our Emperor energies and we're like not being progressive, but we're being regressive with our attitude or our thinking, our paradigm, we get really, really isolated and we get really, really alienated. And we think, I have to figure this out. I have to do it all. And I can't ask for help. I can't let anybody in because I can't let them know that it wasn't perfect. I can't let them know that I didn't have it all figured the frick out. OMG. And our ego is just like so inflamed and so swollen and so pissed off. And literally the only thing that we can do is ask for help. That is the only sort of antidote to that place where when the Emperor has pulled themselves back so far and they're like so like hidden up in their ivory tower of like, no, they're all coming to get me. Like, we're not coming to get you. They're not coming to get you. They're coming to help you. and they are, though, life in general, like this is the shocking moment that we're experiencing in the Tower, is that moment of, oh wow, fuck, this really isn't working, is it? Like this is really, and it's really like a crisis moment. Like it's not only just like, oh, it's not working, no big deal. It's like, oh no, this is not working, and everything is on fire. This isn't working, and my house is falling down around me. This isn't working, and our whole country is sick. Like we can't just play at being emperor. We can't just sit in the chair and yell at people and wave a stick and have things work out, because we have alienated ourselves. Okay, so what do we do about this? Like, how do we address the fact that the emperor has these gnarly tendencies to kind of alienate and isolate themselves? Another tendency, funky tendency that the emperor can display, or when we are in our Aries feelings or our Martian feelings, is a lot of like, that's a great idea, but there's not action behind it. So the emperor also can talk big about really great ideas and never actually ever go on the adventure and attempt to do the thing. He's a thinker, not necessarily, they are a thinker, not necessarily a doer, but there's doing in there too. Okay. I'm going to go too hard. It's not like they're a Libra. Okay. All right. So what do? We have this willful, strong-headed visionary who is insistent on being a pioneer and being an innovator and going where no one's ever gone before and blazing this trail. And then they do, and then they get themselves stuck out there and they won't ask for help. And they're very alienated and isolated. And everybody's like, why won't they just ask for help? Okay. What do we do when we're in that place? We do this. The sign of Aries connects to the emperor, right? We've talked about that. The planet Mars is the ruler of Aries, and that is the tower. We've talked about that. Okay. Well, the planet or the celestial body that is exalted in Aries is the sun. How do we address the ego and the thrust and the go, 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 go without thinking about it too much of the emperor? How do we deal with the alienated, isolated, I can do this all my own, screw you guys, actually don't shit vibes of the tower? It's this. My favorite metaphor for this card is, this baby has seen some shit. And the reason for that is because they've gone through it. The thing that gets us out of that alienated, isolated, I have to do this all alone thing is remembering that none of our challenges are solely for us. They are intended to be teaching us so that we can go back out and help other people, right? The sun did not figure out how to be the sun just to go sit off in a corner and only light up for itself. It lights up our entire solar system. It's sending energy out way beyond our solar system to other celestial bodies and groups that are floating out there in space along with us. What we see in the sun card is a baby that has been born again. Not a newly born baby, a baby that has been born again. And it doesn't really depict it very well in the Smith-Waite deck. A lot of tarot decks, in fact, don't depict this, but behind this brick wall is a labyrinth. And we could certainly think of the time period that we are in right now, as well as a lot of the experiences that we have here in the tower, as being a labyrinth. We don't know what's going on. We don't know where we are. We can't see the whole picture. There's a lot of false starts. There's a lot of false endings. We have to backtrack and like a lot of misinformation. Can't see the whole big picture. Have no idea how far in we are. Are we close to the center? Are we close to the end? No idea. But at some point, we do make it out the other side. And we could think of all major crises or major traumas or major emotional or physical events that we experience in our life in that same way of like, I'm in this until it runs its course, and I've got to just kind of like bear it out and live through it and do my best to do that. We don't know where we are in the process sometimes while we're in the process. And for the emperor, that can invoke tantrum state, that can invoke, everybody leave me alone. I'm going to figure this out my own. Right. But that's not how it works in a labyrinth, right? We can't just run in and just keep rushing through the labyrinth, because we will fully get ourselves completely lost at that point. And if we pass other people in the labyrinth and we're not asking them for help or asking them for advice or what have you seen or where have you been or what is your technique, then we are robbing ourselves, and we're really just only sort of placating our ego at that point, in terms of like connecting with other people and saying, hey, I need your help and you're going to need mine for us to get out of this situation. So this attitude that we see in the Sun card is a huge part of the energy that we can work with to sort of knock us back into the highest, or we might say the most exalted form of who the Emperor can be and who we can be when we are evoking or invoking this archetype or this character. Some other things I might say about the Sun card here briefly, and then I'll move on. This horse is not white, it's gray. So let's consider some things that we've talked about with the color gray already. We have this incredibly bright yellow sun. And we know that we talked about yellow in this card being our brainification stuff, definitely, but about vision and being able to envision things. And then we have this very, very huge, bright red flag that the baby is carrying. And we've definitely talked about red already as being the willpower, the drive, the force. And it's even important to say that there are very few characters in the major arcana or the tarot at all that carry flags. And if you really want to dig into a little bit more about this character and what they may have to say, look at the other major arcana cards where the character is carrying a flag and consider that relationship. Patty, are we in the labyrinth? Does Chiron tie into this relationship with the Sun Tower Emperor? I think that's a really great question. And I definitely would say that the wounded healer issues that might be coming up in your chart or in the sky in general are definitely going to be affecting this kind of work and this kind of relationship, because our wounds oftentimes are the thing. Like, that's what our ego is trying to protect, or our ego feels like it has to be protective or be defensive because of our wounds and because of the experiences where we got our wounds. So I don't know if there's anybody else here. I don't know if Amanda made it back to this one or not, but if she has anything to say about, if you have anything to say, Amanda, about Chiron and what it's doing right now, that would be really cool. Amanda Moreno at Aquarian Spirals .com is an astrologer that I love and work with here in town. She's also a very good friend of mine. I have a lot of respect for her and her work. And maybe she's not here anymore, but check out her Patreon, check out her website. She probably has more information about this, but I would definitely say, is Chiron in a relationship? Yeah. So I think that Chiron definitely can be a player in that relationship just in general, and right now, absolutely. I mean, going forward, there's some pretty crazy astrology this year. And so, actually, let me get onto that. All right, let's talk about the Chiron stuff a little bit more at the end, but that was a really great question. Yeah, I like that a lot. Okay. So, where are we? All right. Let's see. All right. So we've talked about the signs, we've talked about the colors and shapes and the general definition of this card. Some correlatives. Oh, yes. Okay. So, some minor arcana cards that might help you with sort of integrating these ideas into your day-to-day activities, your day-to-day thinking, day-to-day work, all of that stuff. Because a lot of what we're talking about is really lofty, sort of abstract concepts. And they're great to think about, and it's great to evoke or invoke these kinds of concepts in ritual or in ceremony, but they are not necessarily states that we can actually live in and function in for great periods of time. I know that my partner would probably move out or hit me over the head if I actually walked around the house like this character. Not good. It's a cool idea to like hang out with for a little while, but after a minute you're insufferable. So 3 cards that I think that can really help with bringing this character a little bit more down to earth and making them be somebody that is actually like, I can work with this and I can invoke this or evoke this in my day-to-day life are the 2 of Wands, the 3 of Wands, and the 4 of Wands. Okay. The suit of Wands connects to fire. So we already know that the Emperor card is going to have a connection to any of the cards in the suit of Wands because Aries, fire, Wands, fire. Okay. But why these 3 cards? There is a system, I think it was created by the Golden Dawn. I have this conversation every time I talk about this, but there are other systems doing this, just like I talked about before. This is a system. It's not the only system. It's just a system of taking the minor arcana and dividing them up amongst the deacons of the signs. There are 12 signs, and in each sign, we say that there are 3 deacons. And what that means is each sign takes up approximately 30 degrees in the entire 360 degree zodiac. There's 12 signs, and each sign gets 30 degrees, and we can chop that up into 3 pieces of 10 degrees, 10 degrees, 10 degrees. And so each one of these cards, we would say, sits on one of those 10 degrees. And it rotates as it goes throughout the chart. Obviously, that's not all the cards in the deck. So there's that too. Okay. So we can say that working with the 2 and 3 and 4 of Wands are really great cards to work with to help us kind of relate to the extreme states of the Emperor. Okay, so in the 2 of Wands, let's look at our color spectrums and stuff again, right? We've got a little orange cap. We've got maybe orange, maybe maroon, maybe brown. Definitely an orange outfit, but it's kind of faded. And then we have a very blank, bright, like wide gray sky. There's some water and some land. We have more gray down here with this castle wall of some kind. And so first and foremost, I see a person here who is kind of dressed like the Emperor. And in fact, if you pull out the Emperor card and look at this person, they're even holding a wand or something in one hand and a globe in the other, right? So we could say, I think anyways, that this person is kind of playing at or pretending or aping at being the Emperor. They're trying on the costume and seeing what is it like to be the Emperor. And at this stage in the game, there's still parts of us that think all I have to do is pick up a stick and wave it around and people are going to do what they're supposed to do and I'll be in charge of stuff. But all of this gray here is a real tell to me that this person is still surrounded by lots of other people's thinking. They're still surrounded by lots of tradition. And looking at this person, like someone else's tradition, things that have been established and built and created in the world long before this person ever was thought of. Looking at the way they're dressed, there's nothing wrong with it, but they don't look particularly rich or powerful. So even this wall is probably a wall that was built by somebody else, and they're sort of hiding behind it, pretending like, oh, I'm going to be an emperor someday. Okay. Bless their hearts, right? But, and we know that there isn't a lot of agency for this person. We know that there isn't going to be a lot of actual actionable stuff going on with this person. This is a person that's considering what it would be like to be the emperor. And a big tell of that is the wands, the suit itself. This wand has to be held up by this person, right? It stops short here. It's top heavy. It's not balanced correctly. And the person is holding it. It isn't holding the person. And this wand is actually bolted to the wall. It's always 2, 3, 4 with the cardinal signs. Yeah. In this system that I'm working with right now. Yes. Yes. So all of your cardinal astrology signs, the signs in astrology, cardinal, fixed, and mutable, all the cardinals are going to be 2, 3, 4. All of the fixed are 5, 6, 7, and all of the mutables are 8, 9, 10. I teach a class on this, and it's really fun. But so we see with this suit, in the way that it's depicted in this card, the suit is relying on help from other people. So what does that mean? At the 2 of Wands stage, we are still looking at other people's power structures. We're still looking at other people's forms of success and forms of, I did this and I wanted this to happen. We're still looking at those things and being like, maybe that's the success I want. Maybe I want to build my success the way that Joe did it over there. Oh, my friend built their website like that and they got a lot of hits. Maybe that's what I should be doing. We're still looking at the way that other people do it, but we are in the process of having a moment of like, wait, I kind of want to do this myself. I want to figure out my own path. I want to blaze my own trail. I want to be my own person. I think I really do want to do that. Okay, cool. But here at the 2, the very beginning of the suit, right? We're looking at examples from other people, and we're especially so looking at the way that traditional sources of power and traditional sources of wisdom depict success or depict leadership. So we don't have our own vision yet. We're getting all this information from other sources. Okay. Then we move to the 3 of Wands, and we'll notice that the sky color has changed first and foremost. And in this deck, this is an old deck printed in Sweden in the 1960s. So the print on it is not as great as it could be. I don't know where my modern one is. Yeah, whatever. But the color of the sky in this card is actually a bit more peridot or mustardy yellow than it is a bright lemony yellow, like it is in the 3 of Wands. And you can kind of see that with this, but not really. You can see how bright yellow this is, and it just seems like this one's faded a little bit. This should be a little more greenish, honestly. And then this color, this peridot green mustardy kind of yellow, then is now transferred to the floor of the 4 of Wands. Okay, so in the 3 of Wands, we've left the castle. Boo boo, we're going for a walk. All right, go us. We left the house. We put pants on, right? That alone is a freaking success. We've left the house and we are heading down to the dock. And we're going to go talk to some of the captains of the ships and ask them, well, where all do you sail? Where all do you go? And how long would that take? And what kind of provisions might I need if I were to take one of these, boat rides with you to the other side of the planet? What does that look like? We go out. We actually leave the structures of success that other people have taught us about, and we begin to go explore ourselves. And this mustardy yellow sky behind us or in front of us is letting us know in this card that there is a lot of brainification going on. There is a lot of mental activity. Our imagination is lit up. We're having ideas. We're getting potentials and possibilities and thinking about stuff and like, oh, maybe this. Oh, maybe this. And we're really starting to get lit up. Another sign of that, another indication of that is this white headband around this person's head. Now, there's a whole lot of problematic stuff in tarot with colors being used to represent certain magical concepts. Darkness and blackness, like the actual color black, is often used to represent lack or ignorance, where whiteness is often used to, or the color white is often used to represent purity or enlightenment. Mm, mm. But it's what we have. So if there's any tarot illustrators out there, I challenge you to please fix this. It's ridiculous. It's like this world has never existed. But anyways, okay. We know that this person could be any gender. We know that this person could be any race. So it ain't nothing about all of that stuff. But what we see with this illustration is that this person has some ignorance still about their situation. They don't know everything that there is to know. But with this white headband, there's sort of a like innocence to their exploration right now. They're like, I don't know. I'm out here and I'm checking stuff out and I'm just asking questions, and I don't really have an agenda. I'm just seeing what's going on. I'm just finding out, getting it, collecting information with as little bias as possible. This person is dressed kind of similarly to the magician. So there is a little bit of a reference here to the idea that this person might be on a holy quest, that there might be something really sacred to what it is that they're doing. And if we need another insistence of that, back on the Two of Wands, we see down here in the corner, this person doesn't notice it, but we do. Down here in the corner, we have two red roses, and two white lilies. And the only place, or there's two places in the entire deck where we see this combination of flowers appear, and one of them is on the magician. 1 point, 1 gold star to the person who knows or can find out the other card that we see roses and lilies on. I don't have anything for the points, just points. So, just points. Okay. Back to the Three of Wands. Okay. So, we know that this person is on some kind of a holy-ish quest-ish, maybe, right? I think something that's really interesting about the way that they're dressed is they have all these different colors on. They have black and white checkerboard on, which we see very, very rarely. They have this green shawl. They have this red cape, this white headband, and this blue sleeve, which I personally think, if you look really carefully at it, it could be white, but it's probably blue. And it reminds me of the armor, and particularly that the armor, the steel, the blue steel armor that the Emperor is wearing. So now we're seeing this person say, okay, I've put down the toys of the armor, and I've put down the costume part, or I've put down the costumery of the Emperor, and I've put down the toys of the Emperor, and I'm actually starting to put on the tools. Like, I'm actually starting to think about why it is that the Emperor is dressed the way that they are, and what it is that they're out there trying to do. And I'm attempting to emulate that in my own way. Another really positive element in this card is if we look at the way the suit is depicted, we'll see that these wands are growing organically right up out of the ground. So we know that we've tapped in to our willpower at this point. We've shifted from I'm playing pretend and I'm influenced by other people's definition of success into I am going to be able to forge my own way. I am going to be able to do this. I will find the strength in my own will. I will define this for myself. This is going to happen. It's going to be awesome. And we have another indicator of that by this person actually being able to lean on one of the wands in this card. They can actually ask for support from this wand. Okay, then we move to the Four of Wands. And here in the Four of Wands, the sky now is brilliant, hot, bright yellow. We could even think of this as kind of the noon of day, or the sun being directly overhead. And that certainly sits very nicely with our sun imagery. That mustard color of the sky has now moved down to here. So even this state is now something that has moved into our unconscious, and we have tapped much more strongly into our willpower and our drive and our force and what it is that we want to be doing in the world. And we can say all kinds of things about what we see in this card. First off, one of my favorite elements is the castle that's in the background. This is literally the wall that we were standing behind. how far have we come, right? Like here at the Two of Wands, all we're doing is dreaming of what it's going to be like to go on this adventure. And here in the Four of Wands, and we're taking that last moment to sort of look back and look over our shoulder at like, wow, man, that used to be me. I used to be back there dreaming about what it was going to be like. And here I am now, I'm doing it. I'm stepping out into the world and I'm making some stuff happen. This guy is wearing that dark maroon, and then this person is got white and blue on. So there's something about passion and drive here. There's something about a purity of our emotional state here. These wands are not growing directly out of the ground. They seem to be like set up to make this structure. And I wouldn't necessarily look at this and think that it's like the strongest structure in the world, but it's clearly standing up on its own. So it's doing the job that it was intended to do. And it's able to hold up this bough. And this bough up here, it's kind of difficult to see what's on it. I think that it's a bunch of greenery. There's definitely some ivy or some fig leaves in there probably. There might be grapes. I see oranges and roses in there. And the roses connect back to our other rose imagery that we've already talked about. Red roses in tarot speak very strongly to the idea of pure, like fiery, passionate love and a passionate heart. And oranges are very, very solar. It's a very fun, easy, friendly, but potent solar symbol. And I think of this as an initiatory gateway that this person is walking through and heading out into the world. And this scene is, it's us, and it's from our perspective, and it's that last moment where we look back at the safety and the security and the places where we were still just like poking at things and sort of experimenting. And we are now on the way. We are now actually heading out into the world to have an adventure, to try a thing, to do a thing, to be a person, to give it a go and see what happens out there in the world. Will it be easy? Probably not. Nothing in life is just only ever easy if it's actually going to be of any worthwhile. Usually there's setbacks, there's hardships, and there's frightening moments and confusing moments. And we, in theory, hopefully triumph over all of them or learn a whole bunch of stuff about why we don't need to go in that direction. But here at the Four of Wands, we really have kind of come into the first step of coming into our own power and defining what it is that we are going to be when we are this emperor person. And so I say that these three cards are a way to kind of wrangle this stuff, because if we just keep thinking of ourselves as, I'm the emperor, I'm going to go blaze a trail. Well, that's ridiculous. Like, you're literally just going to sit on your couch for the rest of your life and not get anything done. But if we stop and think about what is the next right thing to do, and now what is my next one step, and what is my next one step, we do actually get up and get out and get the project started, make the phone call, write the letter, apply for the grant. We try, we actually apply ourselves, and we attempt to get out there, and we can all at the same time be bold, be curious and courageous, and, have our vision and be pressing towards it. And at the same time, be sort of wrangling our egos and saying like, nope, we're going to ask for help when we need it. No, we're not going to be able to figure this out all on our own. We do have to ask for help and get it and be gracious about it and thank you and all of that. And I think it's that Three of Wands more than anything else that really reminds me of that, of like, this person went and did research, meaning they had to ask for help. They asked people that were their peers, and they asked experts as well. What worked? What didn't? What did you love? What did you hate? Where did you go for the first time you went on a trip? So when you decided you were going to be an emperor, what did you decide to conquer and destroy first? Those little things. Okay, so it is 4:26. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free to stand up and stretch or do whatever you need to do. You're in your own home. You're not going to stop class. Doesn't interrupt me at all. Okay. Okay. So, do I have... Oops, I forgot something. Hang on, I'll be right back. it's not even in here anyways. Ridiculous. Okay. All right. So some recommendations. This archetype is fantastic to work with on any spring altars that you might be building in your house, as well as any altars that you build at any time of the year that are intended for the start of something, to birth a project, to begin a thing, to begin a good habit, to begin a new job, to begin a new health cycle, like anything that you're doing to sort of like recognize the start or the beginning or the genesis of something. The Emperor is a fantastic card to have on that altar or to include in that imagery of that stuff. Also, like I said, any kind of springtime altar, I think they are a really great character to work with. And I think that like stuff magically that helps me orient to the Emperor is lots of stuff that is associated with Aries. So any kind of thorny plants, any kind of spicy plants, any plant with red flowers. And spicy could be different for you. So one person, when I say spicy, they might think of like red chili pepper flakes or cayenne pepper. And another person, when I say spicy, they might think of red cinnamon and red clove. Go with that. Like whatever, wherever you're led. Ginger is also super appropriate to work with Aries and Emperor energy, in my opinion, because it's also very spicy in it and it has that crackle to it. But really red anything. Oh, I put it on the altar. We have a giant hunk of red jasper that I work with the Emperor. But something like this, like hematized quartz, would also work with all of that hot red orange energy, especially something in this particular shape. Hello. But other things that are classically associated with Aries and with the Emperor would be clear quartz, which is why I'm wearing some of that today, especially very sparkly clear quartz, but any kind of clear quartz at all, tumbled, raw, it doesn't matter. All of that is going to be fantastic. And it's because Aries is actually connected to the stone diamond. So if you have diamonds, use those. But if you don't, rhinestones, cubic zirconia. Actually, that's not true. Rhinestones, yes, not zircon. But clear quartz are fantastic stand-ins. Clear or white topaz, I believe, also can be used as a good stand-in. Cubic zirconia is related to Sagittarius. Still a fire sign. Not terrible. You could use it. Let's see. Herkimer diamonds, that's another one that's definitely a great stone. And then another thing that's really importantly connected to Mars and to Aries is the mineral iron. And of course, iron is where we get steel from. So there's a real nice reminder and symbolic correlation in the armor that the Emperor is wearing, in that they're covered in their own metal. But iron and sulfur have a very interesting relationship with each other. Sulfur is one of the few elements that can really break down chemically iron. And when you have an iron deficiency, oddly enough, when you have an iron deficiency, if you're taking iron supplements, you will often also be given sulfur supplements or supplements that have iron and sulfur in the same mix. Or you're encouraged to eat just tremendous amounts of food that have sulfur in them, because your body will not be able to absorb the iron otherwise. It has to be broken down to a small enough molecular level that your bloodstream can actually pick it up out of your digestive tract and dispense it to the rest of the body where it's needed. So iron and sulfur have this very interesting relationship with each other. And sulfur also is a Martian or Arisian chemical or substance. But another thing that I would include anytime you're doing any kind of work with the Emperor, any kind of you're doing any kind of like altar work or investigation, or you're asking questions to the Emperor, anything like that, is working with tools, animals, symbols, anything like that, that help you see far. So a telescope, binoculars, any kind of animal or insect or bird or anything that has incredible eyesight. So hawks and eagles. Those are all really, really appropriate symbols to ask to come and help you. And there's a lot of opportunity for us Western magicians and anybody that kind of identifies that way for us to just sort of trample over lots of traditions that came before us and before the 20th century. So when I suggest working with a creature like a hawk or an eagle, first and foremost, recognize where you are in the world and recognize, is this a creature that is already spiritually important to any of the people that happen to have been here before I showed up or before my people showed up, and what type of relationship do they have? And, in the case of like eagle feathers, it's actually illegal to even pick them up off the ground. So in no way am I encouraging you to necessarily go out and physically try to get parts of those animals to have on your altar. If you do, that's you. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm encouraging you to do things that are a little more sustainable and respectful, more importantly. But certainly it would be totally appropriate to pull up a photo of a hawk or an eagle on your phone and have that sit on your altar while you do your work, or to, find one online and print it out, or find one in a magazine and use it as a central piece in a collage or something like that, like anything along those lines. So there's lots of ways that we can work with these natural elements, stones, scents, plants, animals, birds, insects, without actually having to destroy them or take a part of them and bring them into the home. We can always work with an image of them, and that's going to be just as potent, especially with a character like this, where vision and eyesight is such a huge thing. Okay, so what else did I want to talk about today? Oh, right. I wanted to talk about Aries and the Emperor in your chart. Is everybody okay? Are we all good? Is everybody still here? Am I just like shotgun of information to the face as usual, or fire hose? It's a little nicer of an image, I guess. Everybody's good? All right. Nobody's saying anything, chat. So either you're all dead, I'm talking to myself, or you're G to G. Okay. Sick. Thumbs up. All right. Tight. Okay. So, where is the Emperor in your chart? When I say your chart, what I am talking about is your natal chart. That is the astrological chart or the horoscope that is drawn up to depict the sky at the moment that you were born. And it is a depiction of where all the planets were at that moment that you were born. And spray away. Dirty. Different stream. Okay. So we have a couple of different things in the chart that are going to relate to the Emperor. First and foremost is the sign of Aries. So wherever the sign of Aries shows up in your chart, that particular portion of your life is going to have a lot of Emperor energy. You may have an Emperor attitude there. Whatever that part of your chart is where the Emperor shows up is definitely giving you a lot of thrust, a lot of fire, maybe some impatience, maybe also a very vanguard or visionary spirit. Okay, that's the first place. The second place that we are going to see a lot of Emperor energy is in the first house of your chart. For some people, that is going to be Aries, and for other people, that's going to be a totally different sign. So, Aries section, first and foremost, in my opinion, for Emperor energy, first house, second level of influence for Emperor energy. You can find this stuff on astro.com if you're having a hard time pulling up your chart. I don't want to screw with anything given the problems that we had at the beginning of the stream. I wanted to have multiple screens and be able to show you some screenshots and some symbols. And next time, let's hope. But that specifically, the Aries portion of your chart and then the first house of your chart. Okay. And then if you need more stuff, more information than that, everybody has Mars in their chart somewhere. Everybody has it. So don't go, oh no, my Mars is in blah, 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 because everybody has a Mars somewhere. And while he's super fun and fiery and, is always like down to go get beer, yes, the focus is on the house that Aries falls in. And so that's ultimately, you're getting kind of the double whammy there of the Emperor having influence over Aries. And so it's whatever house Aries happens to be in. I don't want to get too confusing with that if this type of terminology is a little goofy for anybody, but that's really what we're looking at is wherever Aries is in your chart, the house that is mostly taken up by Aries is heavily influenced by Emperor energy. And then also your first house is heavily influenced by Emperor energy. Is that making sense to everybody? I hope that it is. Okay. And then the other element to bring into this is wherever your Mars is in your chart. Mars is somewhere. Everybody's got a Mars. Everybody has the planet Mars somewhere in their chart. It's going to be different for every person, more unless you're twins or born really close to each other. And Mars is the tower. And so whatever area of your life where Mars is, it's going to bring in a little bit of this tower energy. Now, the tower does have good parts. So we only talked about like a lot of the stuff that's difficult or kind of a pain in the ass about the tower. Because I just wanted to super bum you guys out. No, because the tower is freaking hard. And I just wanted to be really straightforward about that. But I did write a really great piece that's on my Patreon about it's actually called The Posse of the Death card, and it's part 1, part 2, part 3, and it's 3 different cards that hang out and support the Death card, and the Tower is one of those cards. And I have actually a lot of positive things to say about the Tower and its experiences in that, because there is a lot of good stuff that can come out of it. It's just hard. But wherever Mars is, that's where the Tower is in your chart. And so Mars energy can bring that alienated, isolated, defensive thing to that portion of our life. Whatever house and sign your Mars is in, there's going to be a little bit of tower energy there. Okay. And so normally I don't necessarily go into all of this stuff about where is it in your chart and all of that. This is also a class I teach, but I wanted to, because I had already planned on talking about the Emperor, and then the whole frickin' world fell apart, and I was going to change it and pick something really light and fluffy. And then I was like, no, we need this. We need to get our asses kicked, and we need the help. Is it more important to look at the house whose cusp is in Aries or the house that's mostly taken up by that? That can be a tricky question. That really depends on, do you use whole sign houses or not? Some people would say the cusp is more important, and other people would say look at it through whole sign houses, because there might be no Aries or all Aries. The whole sign houses basically make the houses and the signs exactly the same sizes, and then scooch it. They'll scooch it forward or backwards of, upwards of 2 hours in one direction or the other to get the house and the sign to line up perfectly. So what I might recommend is that you can look at both of those variations of your chart on astro.com. Look at it. Look at it under Placidius. That's the normal one, quote unquote. That's the one that you're usually using in tropical astrology, where the houses are one shape and the signs are a different shape and they all are kind of mishmashed all on top of each other. And then scroll down in your options and look at whole sign houses, and it will pick which sign is it going to default to, and then it goes ka-chunk for the rest of the chart. And just look at it. Consider both. I know that's kind of confusing and not a straightforward answer, but hi. Welcome to my class. I also look at both when I look at charts. And I really kind of will consider which one seems to have more influence here, which one seems to be the thing that's going to help this person understand what's happening in their chart a little bit more. A lot of people start out with whole sign houses just because it's less confusing. And then you can move into the let's really spread this out and get a little crazy about it. So sorry that I don't have a direct answer there of just do it this one way, but welcome to metaphysics. All right. So the reason that I really wanted to get into, you're welcome, into talking a little bit more in depth about Mars and Aries and astrology in general in the midst of this tarot class is because Mars is going to go retrograde in Aries, its own sign, later this year, pretty soon coming up here, actually. This doesn't happen too often. Mars goes retrograde every other year, every 2 years or so. So Mars going retrograde, not a big deal. It happens all the time. Planets going retrograde in Aries, sure, happens all the time. No big deal. Mars going retrograde in its own sign, however, only happens about every 40 years. It does not happen very often, which I think there is a hilarious and wonderful metaphor there of Aries very much being I'm sorry, self-exploration, personal evaluation. No, I didn't order that. That's not for me. That must be for the neighbor. That's not my pizza and I'm not eating it. I think it's really funny actually, but also oh no. Okay. To be very frank, a lot of astrologers are just saying this is flat out world war. This is flat out with everything else that's happening in the world, with everything else that's happening in other parts of astrology, with both Pluto and Saturn sort of being just part. It's totally reasonable to imagine that could be what we're doing going forward. Definitely not a stretch of the imagination to see that potential there, but I don't want to focus on that. I don't want to be ignorant to it. I don't want to, la, 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 but I don't want to focus on it as if it is the inevitable outcome or the only outcome that could possibly happen here. In the Wheel of the Year, during Aries season, we have some really important holidays come up. But one of the most important one that I think really bears a lot of study potentially for anybody at this time would be Hanuman Jayanti. This is a holiday dedicated to the monkey god Hanuman, who is a warrior. He's an incredibly fierce and protective and strong warrior. And his holy day always happens at this time of year, or their holy day. And a very, 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 very short version of Hanuman's myth is Hanuman is this emperor, we could say, or this general of an army, and has this huge cache of warriors underneath them, and they're ready to pop off at a moment's notice. And meanwhile, Lord Rama and his wife and his brother have been kidnapped by a bunch of demons, and the whole world's going to hell and all this crap is going down. And they're fighting and there's this big battle and everything else. And at some point, Hanuman rolls in and he's like, I'm ready to go. Let's do this. Let's kill him. Let's fight. Let's, save everybody. And Lord Rama is like, yeah, well, okay, monkey god. Let's see what this guy can pull out, because he's kind of a goon, And Hanuman rolls in with his armies and just wipes out the demons, saves the day, saves Lord Rama, saves his wife, saves his brother, picks up a 6-pack of beer on the way home. I mean, he's just got all bases covered, right? And they roll back into town. And Lord Rama is like, I've got to be straight up with you. I have to be super honest right now. I did not expect that. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I didn't expect you to show up like that. I didn't expect you to be that brave. I didn't expect you to be that fierce. Your warriors were incredible. You saved the day. You saved me. You saved my wife. You saved my brother. But you saved the world. You saved us. You saved all of this. And Hanuman takes a knife, very drama, takes a knife, cuts his chest open, takes his rib cage, pops it open, and exposes his heart, wherein on his heart is etched the name in Sanskrit, Lord Rama. And he opens up his chest and he looks at him and he says, your name is etched on my heart. I would fight for you and who you love and the people of this planet until the end of time, if that's what it takes. What I am encouraging you with all of this information to do is to get really, really real with yourself about 2 different areas of passion for yourself. The first area that I want you to get super comfortable with, super close up on, is your anger. The things in you that are just make you mad, make you pissed the fuck off. The things in the world that just trigger you, that really tilt you. The things in the world and in this reality that just make your blood boil. Not the stuff that makes you sad. And there's probably going to be a lot of bleed over. Let's be real. But at the end of it, the stuff that just is like, ugh, like this is the kind of shit I want to fight over. This is the kind of shit that I want to punch somebody in the mouth over. This is the kind of shit that I want to set shit on fire over. I want you to snuggle up real close to those guys. Name them, get to know them, call them out. You're not going to solve that stuff anytime soon. I mean, maybe you are. Cool. Tell us how that goes, because it's, but what I want is for you to call them out into the light and bring them into your conscious. Because all that stuff is going to get brought up to the surface for you this year when Mars goes retrograde. It's going to happen all over the planet. It's going to happen for everybody. Some people are going to be in a process and some people are not. And the people who are not in a process are going to go full tantrum. They are going to go, they're going to have their moment where they blow up, where they really, the top of their head blows off. And that manifests in whatever way it manifests. And a big part of that is because they don't realize how much they feel about what they feel. Like they know they might be mad about a thing, but they might not know how mad they are about that thing until something triggers it and then kaboom. And it's out of control. And the emperor is raging and flailing and rushing from thing to thing. Okay. So my first homework assignment for you is whatever process you need to engage in that is safe and healthy for you, but is also going to be effective. Dig in for yourself on the stuff that really pisses you off, that really makes your blood boil, that really gets you angry, that is just not fucking okay about this world. That stuff. And then I want you to make a list that is your Lord Rama list. I want you to make a list of the things that you would fight to the death over because you love it so much. The things that you feel are worthy of being fought with that level of passion and drive in our world, in our society, in your personal community, in your friendships, in your family, in your larger communities like your neighborhood or your city or your country. What are those things in you that you're like, this is written on my heart? Like, will I fight over it? Yeah. But am I angry when I'm fighting? No, I'm in love. I'm like so passionate about this, and I'm so driven, and I care so deeply about this that I'm ready to pick up my spear and my shield or my sword or my, magical weapons or my wand, my directing, my thing that I'm going to use to direct energy, whatever it is. Like I'm ready to go to that place and fight for this, because all of that stuff is going to get stirred up too when Mars goes retrograde. And if we don't know that, right, it's going to be one day of like, God, this world is terrible. I want to set everything on fire. And then the next day of, God, this world is terrible. I want to hurt myself because I can't handle how much the world is hurting. Or I want to hide from everything and engage in like really self-destructive behaviors and escapist behaviors because everything is terrible out there. All at the same time, we have to figure out how to kind of wrangle and negotiate the parts in us that want to have a tantrum, that want to be alienated, that want to isolate, that want to just like screw everything and blow it up, smash it, just destroy. We have to figure out how to self-parent those pieces in us and soothe them and calm them down and find a place for them, right? Because they're probably not going to go away anytime soon. And at the same time, find a way to foster this portion of us that has this righteous vision for a better future, a righteous vision for, a different way for our communities, a different way for our families, a different way for society at large. Or whatever it is that your righteous vision is. Is there a way that you can sit with both forms of this? Is there a way that you can sit with the things that really make you angry and maybe make you feel helpless or super destructive in a very chaotic, regressive way? And can you also sit with things that you feel very passionate about and that you would, die for? And I'm certainly not encouraging that. In fact, I don't want us to birth the new world by destroying ourselves. I think it'd be really cool if we got to come along for the ride. But there may be portions of ourselves that we do have to destroy. There may be some crowns that have to get knocked off before we are able to accept what our roles are and what our power is in that new place and in that new form. Okay. Don't forget, we're going through the labyrinth, right? But we're carrying the word of God with us. This is hard, and we can do this. Our species has faced worse, may yet face worse than this. But we absolutely have the resources as individuals to be creative and to be brave and to be patient and passionate at the same time. And one of our most potent tools that we have as a species is collaboration, connectivity, community, working together, forgiving, being flexible, being kind, being vulnerable, being willing to change and grow, being willing to say, I'm sorry, being willing to say, I don't know. And most importantly, being willing to say, I need help. I cannot do this on my own. I tried to figure this out on my own and I cannot. It's going to have to be a group project. You've got to help me with this. Please help me. I think that's one of the most potent things that we could do as a species right now. I'm a little biased, but it's just how I see things. So yeah, I think that's everything that I'm going to do for this video. I know we got kind of a late start, but it is already 5 o'clock and I don't want to keep everybody here forever. There was one other thing that I was gonna, let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, damn it. I almost found it. Wait, okay, there we go. Is that everything that I need? Okay. All right. Okay. So this is the last thing that I'm going to give you. This is most of a page of questions that I use to interview cards. So I'm kind of giving you this at the end so that you can work on these questions as you see fit, take what works for you, leave what doesn't. And if you we really, really, really go into this stuff if you are doing mentorship with me. So this is part of what I do with my one-on-one students, is some of this stuff. Okay. So when interviewing your Emperor card, I would recommend you to work with these questions. What is, and you can use these questions with this deck, and you can use them over and over again with other decks. What is your immediate or gut reaction to this card? What are some colors or symbols that stand out to you? And what do they remind you of? And if I'm going too fast, this is, I pray to God, being recorded, and it will be up to rewatch on the channel soon. Maybe literally as soon as we're done. Do you see, or are you reminded of, any religious or mythological or ancestral or archetypal beings in this card? And if you are reminded of any of them, who or what? Something or someone. In one word, what are they doing? If you were to meet this card, what would that be like? If you were to have some kind of an interaction with this card, what would that be like? And if this card communicated with you, how would it communicate? And what would it communicate? And then I would end with the last two questions. What is your overall impression of this card? And in that, you might ask yourself, did I ask you this already, or did I suggest this to you? Not really. In your, what is my overall impression of this card, you might also ask yourself, do I relate to this card or not? Like, when I look at this card, do I have am I drawn to it in some way, or is it just like a massive question mark? And drawn to it, you could either love it or hate it. Like, repelling is also sort of like having a connection, right? You're like, I really feel something for this card. So does this card give you feels, or is it kind of just a question mark or blank? When you look at it, you're like, that. And then the very last question that I would suggest for you to ask yourself when working with this card is, what is it to author something? A-U-T-H-O-R, author. What is it to author something? Okay. I think that's it. I'm certainly happy to hang out and ask questions or answer questions for a while if anybody has any questions. Otherwise, thank you so much for coming. This live stream obviously was totally free. Thank you to the people who donated before. I really appreciate it. Thank you to the folks who have joined me on my Patreon. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Absolutely. If you didn't donate and you do have the means, I absolutely appreciate it. You can send money to my Venmo. That is at Meagan-Angus, MEAGAN-ANGUS. But if you want even more than this, mwah, please join my Patreon. It starts at $1, and we definitely talk about stuff a lot like this. And thank you. You're so welcome. Thank you. And with the world changing and with all of it changing and changing very rapidly and changing very thoroughly, I don't know how much of my class work is going to end up online. It could be a lot. It could be all things end up going online. So all I can say is that I've got some, absolutely. Have always struggled with the Emperor, feeling like weighing in. Awesome. Very, very cool. I do have some stuff in the works for my Patreons, my patrons. I am definitely kind of pivoting what I've been offering there, and I'm going to be changing and adding what's going on there. So nothing's getting subtracted, just more good stuff, even more, and then even more good stuff. But I have loved streaming. It's been really cool, and I kind of want to do it every day. So I'm sure I'll burn out at some point, but I'm very, very intrigued by this whole medium and the possibilities and the potentials within it. So I'm really excited about that stuff. Yes, had a question. Read something long ago, can't remember where, about the Emperor ruling the 4s of all the lesser arcana suits. Totally. No, you're totally fine. Yeah, I think I have read that too. That is definitely, if you practice numerology, the Emperor being the 4 card is going to relate to any place where we see 4s and 4-ness, including other major arcana cards that can be broken down to 4 and something. So we can look at, say, the Temperance card, for example, is 14. That's going to be 10 and 4. So that's going to be the Wheel of Fortune, 10 and 4, the Emperor. That's absolutely something that you can work with. That's not going to be true for everybody. Partly just because some people are like meh about astrology or about numerology, and some people are really influenced and really love the mechanics of it and the patterning there. So explore. What I would say is, if that came up for you in this class, there's probably a reason why you need to go down that rabbit hole and explore that, because there's going to be, at the very least, some kind of subjective experience that you have with that, some kind of subjective revelation for yourself personally that makes sense for your magical paradigm and for the work that you're doing. But yeah, about me again. Hi, Aries rising. Join my Patreon. That's it. The real talk is, between canceling classes this month and canceling classes for next month, I've canceled over 80 seats and it's been pretty harrowing. And you're so welcome. And when folks donate, it is awesome. And I'm so flattered and freaked out and really excited by it. And then when folks join my Patreon, Eva, you're in my Patreon, but thank you. I appreciate that. When you're in my Patreon, you get a lot of this stuff for free. And if it's important to you, you are helping to create a consistent economy for me. And it is not donations that I have to hope are coming in, but it's money that I can kind of rely on coming in every month. And it just creates a bit of stability for me. And that's just super real talk. I know that's not glamorous, but it's the honest truth. So I really, really appreciate it. I really do. The fact that so many people have donated and so many people have joined my Patreon in the last 2 months, which was wildly exciting and really flattering for me, made it so that I felt comfortable making the last class and this class completely free. And I'm really excited to continue to go forward with that. I think that there's something right about that direction of me making more and more of this information accessible to more and more people. So thank you very much. And know that you're not just making it accessible to you, but you're making it accessible to everybody else who watches this. The Ostara class had 111 views the last time I checked. So potentially 111 different people have watched that video for free because you guys were able to help me pay my bills. That's just about as real as it gets. So thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. Lark, do I have a deck I'm most comfortable with? I love working with so many different tarot decks. It often comes down to the work that I'm doing is probably the number one thing. So if I am reading tarot for a person who is kind of comfortable with magical concepts, but they're sort of just getting into it, I'm probably going to read with the Rider-Waite deck simply because they're familiar with it. And it kind of puts them at ease and they can just get on to listening to me and sort of looking at the images and whatever. I find that if I read with people who are not too familiar with magic and I'm using something that's heavily thematic, like the Alien Tarot or the Halloween Tarot or something like that, like they really get distracted by the symbolism and they stop hearing what I'm saying. And so sometimes I'll even... depending on the person that I'm working with, if I'm working with somebody who is a practiced magician who is in a process, who's doing magical work, I will work with the Hermetic Tarot. This is one of my all-time favorites to work with, but dog, if you think I have a lot to say, like, these decks these cards never shut up. The Thoth Tarot is another one that's really fantastic. I have a love-hate relationship with it because Crowley, but Lady Frida Harris. So, it definitely goes back and forth. But when I'm studying, and for me personally, like when I'm doing my, when I'm doing my deep study when I'm doing my deep study to write my long form pieces that go onto Patreon or to my website, my first and foremost deck that I work with is the Builders of the Aditum deck. Builders, Builders of the Aditum, Adytum. And when you get that deck, it is completely in black and white. And the pip cards or the minor arcana are not depicted. They just depict the suits. They're very, very simple drawings on the minor arcana. That deck is really all about the way that the major arcana are depicted. The symbolism is a little different or very different compared to the Rider-Waite deck. And you'll get it in black and white. You get it just with no color. And the idea is that you subscribe, if you want to the workbooks that the Builders of the Aditum send out, and you will paint your own major arcana cards. You can also pick up a book like this, The Tarot by Paul Foster Case, and he talks about the cards, obviously, and he shows them the way that the builders believe it should be painted, and he talks about the colors and the color spectrums in each one of the cards. It doesn't get super duper duper in depth, but I believe that you can actually find online a Pantone color chart that will tell you exactly the literal Pantone color that they recommend for every portion of every major arcana card. The whole point of that being that you develop an incredibly intimate relationship with every little tiny symbol on each one of those major arcana cards, and the deck very much becomes your own, right? Because no two people are ever going to paint or color or pencil in or whatever a deck the same way twice. So it really becomes a very profoundly personal meditative experience that is a really fantastic way of connecting with the deck. After all of that, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I would say that those, for me personally, those are the decks that I'm probably the very most comfortable with. I love the Halloween Tarot, but I actually bring it up a lot. It is like one of the most esoterically designed tarot decks that's out there, that's actually like fun and cartoony and like really easy to get from, who is it, US Games, I think, distributes it. And you're like, oh, they use a hearse for the chariot, and it's like really, really cute. And then you start to look through it and you're like, this is so profoundly, like, there's so much Kabbalistic and Hermetic and Egyptian reference in it, like with shapes and colors and having this thing designed this one way. It's so surprising. So, and illustrated by a Seattle artist. If you didn't know that, the Halloween Tarot was created by Kipling West, who At least at the time that they created it, was here in Seattle. They did the deck release and art opening at Gargoyle Statuary in the U District. So pretty cool. Not Corona, just allergies. Swear to God. Okay. I think that's everything. Did I answer your question, Lark? I just kind of went off on tarot cards for a while. All right. If that's everything, I think we're going to go. I hope this was good for everybody. I hope this gave you a lot to think about. Please send me an email if you have any questions. I'm probably going to relax with a little bit of cannabis, I think, at this point. But I will definitely check my email. And one more ad. Good. One more ad. All of my tarot services are 50% off until the end of the month, and you can schedule that through my website. And all of my astrology services and like my tarot and transits and all of that stuff, those are all 30% off, and you can schedule them. The discount should just be applied automatically, so it might say the normal price when you click it, and then when you go to check out, it should give you the discount. If it doesn't, email me. And oh yeah, and there's tons of discounts when you join my Patreon and all that stuff too. So, all right, that's enough advertisement. I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. This is really cool. It's really exciting. And like I said, this in theory, let's hope, was recorded, and you should be able to rewatch this if there was anything that went by too fast or that you didn't quite pick up or whatever you want to go back over and really think about. This will be up on the channel for free forever, ? Or until the servers fail because power supplies have been damaged in the water wars. I don't know. We'll see how it all works out. Mwah. Thanks, guys. Love you. And go forth. Be brave. I am. The way out is through.